What going people? One of the dude. Wait till more people gather so we can kick off the live stream. Is what I say? Yeah, and for all who just are rolling, just drop a like on the live instantly. You see me? But we get the likes up quick and fast so YouTube can push out the live quick and fast so we can start it off. You see me? Because the video we go show now, Vybz Kartel lawyer basically I explain law matters. You see me? And you don't know my touch on Vybz Kartel case, the current case, the ongoing case. You see me? And give some updates. And also the big reveal, Sir P. And basically I go expose some things about Sir P. Yeah man, so yeah, make sure wanna stick around for that, you see me. Although it go forward very early night, you see me, so wanna not go wait long. But yeah, much I would up on the live. 5 I would up on the live. But we get it up to 5 likes quick and fast. You see me? Yeah. So just click off of the chat, click like and forward back on the chat. You see me? So. People when I see the likes I go up on. I know I'm start the live stream. What go on? You see me just like the live no man so YouTube can push it out so we can start the live stream quick and fast. But when I deal with still, I'm not see no comments I drop who there. When I hear me by the way, let me know if you not hear me. I don't know if you might hear me. When I hear me, when you hearing me, what go on? When I hear me people want to know if you not hear me you know. What go on? No man, what go on with the life? And me, people want to know if you not hear me you know. And we have 24 people on the live. So if you not hear me, like the live. You see me? We have about 5 people like the live already. And we have 24 people like the live. But anyways, open up hear me still, but respect for everybody tuning in on the live. Oh, now hear me. Alright, good. Alright, so hear me wanna do. Click off of the comment section, the X to the middle right. Click off of it. Go like the stream and forward back. You see me? We're gonna show the video shortly, but one YouTube will push out the live, you see me? And the only way to do that if you not like the live stream, you see me? But yeah, one of the youth still no good. Everybody good. On the day I go on. So while we wait for some more people to join the live, we'll go and read, you know. I don't know if I no dry throat reason, you know, what go on. Utilize the comment section there. Alright, so yeah, well now I kick off the live. Cause, you know, like when I like up the stream, probably because I don't get still no one to see, but alright, do I kick it off? Oh, go on, so.
really, when you invest in the technology, you tend to discover a lot of stuff, you know. Let me tell you one of the stuff that I also realized that I found out from the technology. You can have good fun with technology. So somebody confirmed. This is what I discovered from technology.
You literally can just start a show and start to tell people, you know, how interesting it is to have your own show, and you can post and present to people and say to yourself, hey, I am a blogger and I know everything about law, even though I'm not an actual lawyer, but I tell people that I'm a lawyer and stuff like that. But
I'm also trying to I got a call from Keisha, well, a message from Keisha, who is my she is my moderator on TikTok, and apparently I need to fix her settings. So once again, when you're technologically deficient, you find yeah. All right, it's fixed now, so we can move on. So listen, I know they're laughing, you know, but I don't know who tell them to let me get this technology, because anytime I don't like something, I'm gonna go right there. All right, so let's go. TikTok, when they're not hearing, and they can't hear this thing, but go over to Isaac McKenna 5419. I promise you, it's lit over there. I know y'all on the TikTok, but y'all have to go on the live as well if we're gonna get some of the jokes. So yeah. So let's kick this off. Situation ethics. Listen, this is hilarious, but I know y'all know what y'all know what it is. Yeah. So with the situation ethics now, I want to start off by just giving you a basic definition of what situation ethics is, its purpose. Why are we even talking about it? Let's put things in context. They say there's a time and place for everything. This week, well, last week to this week, very interesting. I know last week I was talking about it, but I'm really now in a situation where I'm going to tell you the biggest case of my career is, the word is not going to be interesting, but achieving the quashing of the conviction for the biggest case of my career is difficult to allow people to minimize such an achievement. I'm certainly not going to minimize it, and I'm not going to act like it wasn't a big achievement. What happens though is something I noticed in local media being Jamaican media, not one media house reported that I spoke at the Privy Council. Not one. There was not one article that a young Jamaican lawyer with dreadlocks actually spoke at the Privy Council. If there's any significance at all to that, that wasn't communicated in no newspaper. In fact, there was one program that I saw, and the reporter was asking a senior attorney, how comes it is that only the white lawyers spoke, the English lawyers spoke, and no Jamaican lawyers spoke? And it was then after being on Rattigan's show and speaking to the high priest, and he was explaining that, you know, Black people really are white. And that's when I realized that I was white. And so I wasn't offended, because when they said that no local lawyer, no Jamaican lawyer spoke, only the white lawyers, and I spoke, I realized it was a validation that I was actually white. So I just move on from that. But what I did notice is that when it comes to me per se, there is this fascination where people simply are ready to accentuate the sarcasm. So if you're not on Context Matters and you're not following and sharing and keeping up with what's happening, you'll just randomly see a clip and think that I am doing the most, for lack of a better word. Yeah, I'm doing the most. So that I was able to hear stuff, the whole thing about my new line. I haven't launched the website yet, but I'm now selling guard rings. And you can get any color stone that you want. You can get it in silver, you can get it in gold. All that stuff will vanish away, but a good education will never decay. But in any event, my new line is coming out, and feel free to send me a message on any of the social media platforms on how to get yours, because without it, apparently you can't survive, right? So anyway, in that vein, we're going to now speak about the situation ethics. So that introduction was pretty much to bring you up to speed with what is it that we're talking about. So when we talk about situation ethics, what we really are saying is that the right thing to do depends on the situation. So in situation ethics, right and wrong depends upon the situation. So there are no universal moral rules or rights. Each case is unique and it deserves a unique solution. Situation ethics rejects prefabricated decisions, and pragmatism, positivism, relativism, and personalism are the four working principles, which means to be reasonably sure the act you take will work and provide the most loving consequences, accepting situational ethics as a matter of faith and not reason. Each situation must be relative to love and bring about the most loving result. And finally, the needs of people come first rather than a set of rules, which are prescriptive rules. Any thoughts on that? And I'm looking through the comments right now to see if there's any thoughts on that which I just said. If you need me to repeat it, I'll happily repeat it. But I just want to ensure that we are looking at what it is when it comes to situation ethics. And we'll address that, we'll address if the situation give rise for people to resign, step down, people to walk out of parliament, people to stand on the roadside and give speeches, people to speak about, we'll get there. All right, so Geo Heaven has asked me to repeat, and I'm going to gladly repeat because I know the material is heavy, but I'm on a journey to uplift and introduce critical thinking as an aspect of the thought process for just everybody in general. And we need to get there. So I'm going to take my time. Again, the right thing to do depends on the situation. That's the starting point. That's situation ethics. Well, in situation ethics, right and wrong depend upon the situation. So it's almost like an oxymoron. But there are no universal moral rules or rights. So each case is unique and deserves a unique solution. And situation ethics rejects fabricated decisions. And pragmatism, positivism, relativism, and personalism are the four working principles, which mean to be reasonably sure the act you take will work and provide the most loving consequences. Accepting situational ethics as a matter of faith and not reason, each situation must be relative to love and bring about the most loving result. And finally, the needs of people come first rather than a set of rules, prescriptive rules. So, blessings, everybody, if you're just joining. We are talking about situation ethics. And I just pretty much gave what it is, what situation ethics is, and a general rule on how it works. Today, if you're not spiritual and you're not biblical, you're gonna learn some spirituality and biblicality today. And if you for whatever reason don't want to hear it from me,
I can call someone who people sheepishly believe nonsense, and maybe possibly they can help.
Anyway, so what is a simple, let's talk about what does situation ethics argue. Well, situation ethics argues that there is one moral rule, that we should do whatever is the most loving thing, and that this needs to be applied to each unique situation we face. So there is one moral rule, and we should do whatever is the most loving thing. That's the moral rule, and that this needs to be applied to each unique situation that we face. So let me give you a simple example of situation ethics, and then we break it down. Okay, I'm glad somebody said that. I was kind of wondering if, tell me if this one is better. No, this one actually looks worse. So let's just continue with this one, and let's see if that is that better. Yes, no. Dark. Boy, if we just work with the dark today now, because I'm one of one. It's too dark. All right, they are both dark. Yeah, I'm seeing that it looks dark. TikTok me dark. All right. Yeah, I'll try to sort it out by the break to see if I can do something better, but we'll have to just work with this for now. The other thing that I can do is to see how best if I reduce the lighting, but then in here going to look like the shade room. Hold on. Nope. See that it's even worse now. Nope. Let me see. Walking out of Parliament wearing worse. Good evening. I said, yeah, this is worse. So I'm going to blinking right now. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Best I can do for now. Yeah. So so the simple example of situation ethics, here's what it should look like. If the actions change depending on the situation, and making something that might have been immoral before now moral, a good example is pretty much killing a mass murderer before they are going to kill hundreds of people. So you snipers do get the job to take out the school shooter or the mass murderer, to prevent them from killing more people. So it's almost like a defense of necessity. It only arises in those particular situation. And there was a case of A Minor, the conjoined twins, and through that, where they said the necessary evil that you have to do is not necessarily to kill the parasitic twin, but to save the one that you could save. Yeah, so that's interesting. The next thing is what is the difference between situation ethics and natural law? I want to talk about that because natural law, right as it is right now, there's no respect for natural law in many societies because people think that we've gone from that. But natural law is the right to a fair hearing, the right that you need to be heard if adverse decisions are going to be go against you, are going to go against you. And a lot of times state actors, they don't necessarily agree. Yeah, they don't necessarily agree and they don't like natural law. And so you usually have to, by virtue of judicial review, sue them. And you might find yourself at the highest court because it becomes technical and it's a personality clash and conflict within throughout the court system. And yeah, but the decisions of natural moral law are rules to be obeyed. Those who follow situation ethics are following a system that is generally teleological. So its moral decisions are based on the situation, where the correct action is to bring about the most loving consequences. Well, how about a situation where natural law is where everybody deserves the same kind of treatment? Situation ethics can be problematic in circumstances where if you take things by a situational or case by case basis, and if you apply it to the law, you can see where because you, the individual, is before the court, a different rule applies to you. And then you get stuff like, let me not use myself, but I wonder when you see the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, PJ Patterson, he puts out a whole press release to say that the judges would have gotten it wrong in the Vybz Kartel case from 2014 because they had a ruling from 1983 where our judges set down the law as exactly as the Privy Council did, exactly in terms of when it comes to poison on a jury, bias in relation to the jury and how it affects people. And so then one wonders if we are using the natural law, if we're using the Constitution, or we're using situation ethics and saying that a departure from what we know is the law was taking place into that particular case. And here it is now. One of the most erudite lawyers in Jamaica, along with his colleague, does a joint statement to say that this should never have happened because the law was decided from 1983. That's some 41 years ago. And certainly in that aspect, or as one is to look at it, you would definitely see that on a situation ethics, this is a situation where it's adverse to the defendants in that particular case, a departure from what would have been natural law. So that's the distinction between the two. Situation ethics now, you see, in ethics and theology, the position that moral decision making is contextual or dependent on a set of circumstances. Situation ethics holds that moral judgment must be made within the context of the entirety of a situation, and that all normative features of a situation must be viewed as a whole. So the guiding framework for moral decisions making, it stated variously as that of acting in the most loving way, to maximize harmony and reduce discord, or to enrich human existence. So situation ethics was developed by an American Anglican theological, his name is Joseph F. Fletcher, and his book Situation Ethics, or The New Morality, was published in 1966, and it arose from his objection to both moral absolutism, which is the view that there are fixed universal moral principles that have binding authority in all circumstances, And then you have moral relativism and the view that there are no fixed moral principles at all. So Fletcher based situation ethics on the general Christian norm of brotherly love, which is expressed in different ways in different situations. And he applied this to issues of doctrine. For example, if one holds to the absolute wrongness of abortion, then one will never allow for abortion, no matter what the circumstances within which the pregnancy occurs. So Fletcher held that such an absolute position pays no attention to the complexity and uniqueness of each situation and can result in a callous and inhumane way of dealing with the problem. So on the other hand, if there are no principles at all, then the decisions is reduced to nothing more than what one decides to do the moment with no real moral implications involved. Rather, Fletcher held within the context of the complexities of the situation, one should come to the most loving or right decisions as to what to do. Now, Fletcher's view was influential in Christian communities, both in America and Europe for decades, reaching its peak in the 1980s, after which it began to wane. His ethical framework bore strong affinities with the version of pragmatism proposed by the American philosopher, social reformer, and educator John Dewey, who characterized his position as instrumentalism. In Dewey's framework, moral principles are tools or instruments that are used because they work in resolving the conflicts within complex situations in the most harmonious way for all those involved. Well, these principles are experimental hypotheses that are constantly subject to ongoing verification or revisions by the demands of the unique conditions of experience. So this view is opposed to the absolutist understanding of fixed rules as inherently valid and universally applicable to all situations. So there being no exceptions, it also is opposed to the relativist understanding that there are no normative guidelines, but only individual judgments concerning particular cases, and that there's no moral justification for evaluating one moral claim as being actually superior to another. So here's the reality. And I invite you to agree or disagree where this is concerned. And it pretty much looks like this. If it is that absolute morality would be a fallacy, and I'll get to it in terms of if Jamaica is a Christian society, or you find yourself in a society where religion is followed, you would see that absolute morality is completely not a workable concept. So situation ethics has its value in terms of finding the balance or finding that space where you can actually find justification in decisions made that actually assists or affects society as a whole. And it also will affect the individual. And so let's look at it this way. Three are all the things that happened this week, and how people feel about it. We have murder still happening, rape still happening, crime still happening, birth still happening, death still happening. How do we assess situations? We have persons who are to be prosecuted, not being prosecuted. We have the illicit six in parliament that's not being named and everybody's okay with it. And people are saying that the illicit six doesn't exist anymore. And then we have a situation where out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, it was said that, hold on, what's happening here? So, and tell me if you're seeing me better now. Still no sound? They're still saying no sound. Oh boy. Okay, now they're saying it's better. Good. Okay, and you can hear me now. All right, great, great, great. Yeah, so I was saying that the idea that Mr. Golding was in Parliament and he raised the objection of the Prime Minister's wife being the Speaker of the House. So let's break it down in situational ethics. This is just my view, and it does not need to be adopted by all parties involved. But when we start to think about the idea of the Prime Minister and his wife obviously living together and pretty much running two organs of the state, when you're dealing with the how Parliament and government works and stuff like that. So the situation ethics is this: in law, a wife or husband can't testify against each other. They have no duty to. The testimony under the Evidence Act would be problematic. Now, somebody's still saying no sound and somebody's saying they're hearing, and so I don't know. Maybe for those who are hearing, I'm glad you can hear, and everybody else, you can rewatch when the time comes. But yeah, so the situation ethics of it is this: the woman is entitled, if she has a capacity to naturally be, she's entitled to naturally be get to the pinnacle of her career based on her capacity, if she has any. Clearly she has capacity. I've taken that position many times, and so she has a right to reach the pinnacle, including, if she wanted, she could be the next Prime Minister of this country. Should she defer because her husband happens to be the Prime Minister at the time? Should she not be Speaker of the House because of that? These are questions or situations that have to be looked at. And so is it bad that she has reached her personal achieved her personal goal by being, someone says, struggling hungry? I don't even know that, but I just thought about KFC, so I'm wondering if I'm struggling. Anyway, because I'm hungry, right? So the idea or the concept is to look whether or not her personal achievements is a good situation. Is it good for everybody? Is it coming from a place of love, and is it right? Is it morally wrong? Because I can tell you this: there is nothing in law that prevents Miss Holness from being the Speaker of the House. Nothing in law. And if persons aren't happy with it, they need to they need to simply change the law to make it clear that the family members and husbands and wives and stuff can be in government at the same time, which to me would be like a breach of constitutionality if you were deprived of opportunities, and there would be no equality before the law. But I'm just getting that. But on a case of morality, and certainly this is not a universal morality, but a situation morality, if she should resign because it's not a good look. Because I put thought to it, although it is, I said, shut up, the lady is not troubling the damning ISIS. So if you think I should shut up, Timira, the best thing to do is to go to another platform. It's that easy. But anyway, so if it is that one thinks that way, then obviously, as you could see, the one side, they walked out and they were upset and they didn't like the outcome. Another thing for me, if you're a simpleton like me and you go over to Pinkwall from time to time, wouldn't it be just as though you're saying that, oh, they're together and whatever, whatever, isn't that a testimony to a strong marriage, that you are worried that they can't do their duties because they listen to each other in the household? What if that marriage went sour and the speaker of the house showed up and she was no longer in love with her husband, who happens to be the prime minister, and they're going through a very awful marriage? Would it still be bad for the country but good for the opposition? Because if she's mad, she's going to do everything in her power to assist the opposition rather than, and so bias would be shown. Either way, one could say it's a bad situation, or one could say it's a good situation. The point of me raising this is to deal with situation ethics, because every situation it requires assessment of the given situation. That's pretty much where I am going with it. So there are persons who may very well believe that oh, we shouldn't have this conversation and all of this. The point I'm making is the raising of the concern is a concern that requires situation ethics. This is simply an example. Whether notice what came from it was three things, and I'm going to teach you them right now for the benefit of all, and then we can go back. There is something called fallacies. It is mechanisms or tools used in logic to completely distract, deter, remove from salient issues. I'm just going to teach you three of them today, and you put it in context, because for me, I observed, I watch, and while it is that people will take sides, I don't need to take any sides where it's concerned, because I don't think it affects my existence one way or another. Save and except for it's all a part of the comical show that goes on with Jamaican politics and politics at large, because here it is in the Jamaican space, someone raises an issue about the close relations, and there are multiple close relations, but at a particular, where at the climax of power it becomes a problem. But nobody has a problem with the sons and fathers, fathers and daughters, and husbands and wives being in parliament, so long as you don't take the two top positions. But one would wonder if at all there's any logic to it. Anyway, the response, however, is the red herring that we should look at. Rather than answering the question, persons walk out. And a good opportunity would have been to respond to it when it was right to do so and keep it moving. But instead, people who depend on the political electorate to educate them, to protect their interests, and certainly you want to learn in the space as you go on, the response is not necessarily something that is palatable. So here are the three fallacies that I'm going to teach you about today, and two of them overlap, but I just want to go slow so people can appreciate where I'm going with it. The first one would be red herring. This is a logical fallacy in which irrelevant information is presented alongside relevant information, distracting attention from the relevant information. This may be done intentionally or unintentionally. And so a red herring is often used in movies, television, and literature, and naturally in parliament. And then people forget what the salient issues are. And so that fallacy, it consists of diverting attention from the real issues by focusing instead on one issue, having only a surface relevance to the first. So example is this, and in this generation, we do it a lot. You go and you say, yo, dad, it's really hard to make a living on the salary, so you have to keep giving me your allowance. Big youth, come up off of the allowance. and stop talking about people big. You have all of the money, so come up off of it. And then father hits you with this. You're lucky, you know, son, because when I was your age, I only made $40 a week. So why are you complaining now? Well, that is what you would call a red herring, because it doesn't answer the salient issue, the salient point. It doesn't take it any further, and it's so distracting. It takes away from the logic, and it doesn't address the situation. So naturally, you're saying, I think it's not. Mark Golan is saying, I don't think it's ethical. I don't think it's right. And even if there's no law, there's something that you can do in terms of morally, ethically, to say that to keep the integrity of the parliament intact. We should try to remove your wife shouldn't be the speaker. What's the response from the other side? Oh, you're a misogynistic person, and you why you do that? Why you do it? I won't use that word, but you know. And then also, this is low, this is low, this is low. But is that answering the question? Is it addressing the question? And then walking out, how does that help the morale of the society? How does it finish or end the discussion or the discomfort, if any? Was the raising of that even helpful? Did it detract from the salient points and the important message that he was giving in his speech? Did he throw a red herring? Did he set up a smoke screen that prevented the people from hearing what he was presenting, what looked to me like a manifesto being put out as to that which he could have done, he intends to do when he becomes prime minister? That is just dealing with one fallacy. It's a matter for you. Toxic King says, I don't think his wife should be head speaker. Head speaker would be speaker of the house. And Toxic says it's not right. That's an opinion, but not what in law prevents her from being that. She is bright. Before her, there was a lighter skinned woman who was a speaker. So this is me throwing up the red herrings and the smoke screen. So I don't see why a dark skinned, black skinned, strong black woman can't be speaker of the house, and the whole owner just two bad men and they need to take several seats. Plus, she's his wife. Yeah. And it's good to run a mom and pop business. It's good to when you're running a family business, that you see your wife at work and you see your wife at home and you see your wife, you know, it's good like that. So two bad men take several seats. Yeah. So the smoke screen fallacy now responds to a challenge by bringing up another topic. Now, smoke screens or red herring fallacies mislead with irrelevant, though possibly related facts. So we know we need to make cuts in state budgets, but do we really think we should cut funds for elementary physical education programs? That's how a smoke screen looks. We know that we have a serious murder rate, but do we really need to build new prisons just because we're locking up people for guns and murder? That's a smoke screen. Or we know minimum wage is not acceptable, but we have to do we really have to raise the salaries for teachers and public sector workers because we've already raised ours? Those are smoke screens. It's a fallacy, it's distracting. But most of all, another thing that we would have seen in the space, and I need you guys to appreciate that this actually happened, is the, hold on, I crave your indulgence. Yeah, the other thing. Oh, come on, man. Yeah, The other aspect of it, or the other fallacy, is the straw man fallacy, and that was on clear display yesterday. It occurs when someone distorts their opponent's argument by oversimplifying or exaggerating it, for example, and then refutes this new version of the argument, and it's called a straw man argument. So, what's an example of a straw man logical fallacy? Well, if a parent tells their child they can't see their friends tonight, and the child responds, "Why do you hate me?" then the child's response is a straw man argument because it creates an exaggeration. Let's put that in context. Mr. Golden, the opposition leader, says, "Listen, this is happening, but we want to say to you that up in assessing the position of the Speaker of the House, who appears to be biased because she won't table bills and it seems now to be inappropriate in hindsight. The response is, get low, yeah, low, low, you're low, and then keep my wife's name out your mouth, and yeah, whatever else, and all the things that came into play. These is what is known as the straw man fallacy. And based on that, what was lacking was at the time when you start to talk about the wife. If you had watched the Oscars, there is precedent on how to handle that. So if you're sitting and somebody is presenting and then they start to present and talk about your wife, she doesn't have to have alopecia. She don't have to have it. She don't have to like August. You know what I'm saying? But you still same, you can still get a will treatment and you can get up and go up over there and go, whoop, and then after you do that, you say, keep my wife's name out your mouth. And then you give your speech for best actor because you're gonna win best actor that night. So maybe if you're gonna walk out and you want to win the Oscar for acting like there's some moral high road that you're taking by leaving out, then you have to double down. I have a box. You see what I'm saying? And then when you do that, and then everybody's like, oh my God, Parliament turn up. And then that puts things into context where you're dealing with the all of the drama. And so, yeah, Little John had a song, Get Low. Yeah, get low. Yeah, low or whatever. So we know what's on. Yeah, so we definitely know what is on the agenda for the Oscar Awards, where that come. But in all of this, best supporting role goes to my favorite JP, Warmington. He was most angry, and it's not his wife. So that was so cool. And then he was leaving with the train of green. He was leaving, and everybody said, "Well, Cooper, you too. Them did roll. You know, lose your job." That was low. You lose your job. Go ahead. And somebody, they were acting like they were downtown. Somebody was like, "Go ahead, come out, cause them done fire. Where are you?" And he was looking really JP-ish. Me not lie. It was funny. But anyway, so he should get Best Actor award. So that was messy. Let's put it in context though. But we're at the 6 o'clock, so I have to do some housekeeping. And it looks a little something like this.
It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time for living a lie. Gotta keep it moving till you get it right. That's right. It's all in life. Gotta keep your head up and keep it straight. No time to be living a lie. You can make it if you try. No, I heard them say life much better you live it your own way.
Yeah, so pretty much that's where we go, or that's what that is in terms of the looking at the situation. So note those fallacies as they occurred yesterday, and while I continue to show you guys what the fallacies are, I'm not hearing anybody saying that I should actually repeat what those fallacies were, but just to put things or to share a perspective or to shed some light on on what was happening there, one can appreciate a little better that if we really are assessing that situation with the prime minister's wife and her role, it's a little bit more mature consideration. I think that what came from it, not only the law, but stating that Mark Golden is misogynistic because he raised it and him don't want to see woman elevate, and the persons who it's coming from, people who would have accepted and ratified men who beat women with chairs and allow those things, and so I realize that in the Jamaican space they really don't know what the definition of misogyny is, and so because of that, people just throw around big words and they don't know it, and it's quite understandable because there are people in the parliament who actually have zero to no education, and so they're not the brightest cohorts, and so when they have to deal with people who are actually on a level where they do understand and they can't take people for either, they have to shout, low and shout things to distract. I was asked to repeat the fallacies. I have 2 minutes to do it. So fallacy number 1 is known as the red herring. The red herring is simply, it consists of diverting attention from the real issue by focusing instead on an issue having only a surface relevance to the first example. So the son says, Dad, it's really hard to make a living on my salary. And the father says, consider yourself lucky, son. When I was your age, I was only getting $40 a week. Mind you, when my father's getting $40, he could have buy a whole apartment building because house was the same as the price of car and all of that. Anyway, the smoke screen fallacy is the next one. So the smoke screen responds to a challenge by bringing up another topic. So smoke screen is also like red herring, but you notice a whole different topic. It misleads. The smoke screen fallacy mislead with irrelevant, though possibly related facts. So, i.e., we know that we need to raise the salaries of the we know we need to raise minimum wage, but do we really think it's an appropriate time to raise the minimum wage when we haven't paid our teachers and our public sector workers yet? I think not. And so that is what you call the smokescreen fallacy. The last one is the straw man fallacy. And it occurs when someone distorts their opponent's argument by oversimplifying or exaggerating it, for example, and then refutes this new version of the argument. So it's called a straw man argument. So if parent tells their child they can't see their friends tonight, and the child responds, "Why do you hate me?" The child response is a straw man argument because it creates an exaggeration. Somebody telling you that you can't do something, i.e., just because the leader of opposition says that the prime minister's wife should not be or ought not be the speaker of the house, doesn't mean that he's misogynistic. Simple as that. That's the straw man thing. Or just because he raises an issue that touch on concern. And also the red herring is you raise this thing about law because you don't want them talking about stuff like maybe the prime minister should actually resign because his declarations have not been certified up to now, and we're running into 3 years or whatever, something of that nature. But that's just how it is. And Kevin keeps saying low. So just that basically that's pretty much what the main issue is. She is not doing her job, so she proves them right. Yeah, that's an opinion that's not necessarily true. By holding the report, it means she's doing something. She's just doing her job, and you just don't like it. It's two different things. All right, so we back. We back from all that break, commercial breaks, housekeeping matters, and that brings us to our second hour. And in dealing with that, here's my thought, or here's what I'll say now. What are the ethical principles of Jesus? I'm taking it there because we have to look at situation ethics. Jesus he dealt with situation ethics. Why? He Kezia Couture says Isaac loves her, he always defends her. Yeah, well, such is life. Yeah, so what are the ethical principles of Jesus? Well, let's start with honesty, humility, authenticity, truthfulness, promise keeping, and sincerity. These are aspects of integrity that Jesus referred to in his teachings and parables. So when our beliefs, words, and behaviors are congruent, we act as a whole person and do not pretend to be something that we aren't. And so the deeds match our words. That's pretty much how Jesus looks at it or deals went about with his teachings. So just some selected scriptures. And notice, I'm not being. This isn't Bible studies. This isn't schooling. Just remember, Jamaica is a Christian society. We actually, whether we know it or not, once we get up and talking about that not right and this and taking a moral stance, you'd be surprised that you're dealing with the Jesus teachings a lot more than you know, and it is an innate aspect of where our conscience and our morality comes from, and the demonstration is it's sound and it's necessary. So here it goes. So selected scriptures for the purpose of this. We're going to start with this. So Jesus, here's how he replied. He goes off by saying, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So you find that Matthew 22:37-39. Now, what's all this laughing going on? Somebody says oh, okay. Good evening. Good evening. Kevin says, but is Jesus is fake and morality is false? That's a question for you. You must know where you get your conscience from. You must know where you get your empathy and your compassion from. And that's the starting point. Another scripture is, after this, Jesus traveled from one town and village to another, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. And that's Luke 8:1. Then it says, so I say to you, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds. And to him who knocks, the door is open. And that's Luke 11:9-10. Somebody must be saying, but what go on with Isaac? How I'm getting so religious? Joycelyn says the bottom line is that whenever they are called on to produce statutory declarations or name the six, they get upset. Well, whenever I go to KFC and I order my big six, the 6 pieces of chicken that I order is there, so I know what I'm getting. If you don't know what you're getting, it's called puss in a bag, and it's probably not a good thing to rely on puss in a bag. What say you about that? Because that's my thought on all of that. Now, See, PNP had a very interesting day. So even the animals, they have sense. They question things when it happens. So the photo that is on the monitor right now, you can see a dog who clearly is a fan of the PNP by virtue of his orange attire, but very skeptical, because it could very well be that although carrots can make you see, um, it is how you apply situation ethics, because what you're using the carrot for when you get it, or when you're sizing up carrots, it can be very, very, very unfortunate. So one would accept why it is that one is so skeptical at the time as to whether or not people are doing the jobs they're doing. But how I see it is, when you're dealing with the situation ethics, and even though even animals know that they should think about in what situation and circumstances things are happening. So it's a matter for you. Your thoughts on the pic as it presents itself. One wonders. I will pause for effect. Yeah. So that's just one aspect of the many things. But what about um what about the idea or thought? You see, today you will paint what I have put before you. It is all about context. It's all about the angles. So while one would say that the situation ethics is necessary, it is from whatever angle that you are viewing things that are placed before you that will cause you to interpret whatever is before you. And so this picture depicts that sometimes the angle at which you are able to view objects may very well cause you to paint a picture that really isn't so. So it's possible that while it is that nobody sees anything wrong with particular situation, it depends on where you're looking at, and it depends on how you follow the instructions. It depends on the aspect of what it is, and I'll just leave it at that. It is a matter for you. Again, if you look on the monitor, this isn't school challenge quiz, but it's there for you. The angle will determine what it is. And so yeah, that's it. And I must say this: if you're here for the first time on the live, you like, subscribe, share, same thing. And Reggae Global Radio is the outlet by which we tell people that context do in fact matters. The part of it now that I'm showing you why situation ethics, having given those photos and about the context, the angles, what it is that we're actually looking at. Here we go now. When Jesus says that, he speaks about integrity. It's saying be honest with yourself, truthful with others, and humble in your relationships with them. So Jesus asked his followers to choose righteousness and goodness for a responsible moral life. His righteousness is manifested by inward dispositions of the heart and moral actions. Integrity as a core virtue embodies a many-faceted combination of character traits. Honesty, humility, authenticity, truthfulness, promise-keeping, and sincerity are aspects of integrity that Jesus referred to in his teachings and parables. So when our beliefs, words, and behaviors are congruent, we act as a whole person and do not pretend to be something that we are not. So oftentimes people want you to be something that you are not. And that can be problematic in many spaces. So your deeds must always match your words. including when one looks at it, Jesus' harshest criticism was of the Pharisees, whom he observed as hypocrites who had a form of religion, but who lacked compassion for the widow, poor, lame, unprivileged, powerless, and outcast. Even some of the Pharisee and Herodias recognized Jesus as a person of integrity when they went to him and said, "Teacher, we know you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by men because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" And that was Mark 12:14. Now, why is this important? Because you can only be who you are, and sometimes people are put in positions that they probably ought not to be in, and they expect respect, and they want you, they command the respect, and they want this and they want that. And the reality is, if they're not deserving of it, and you can only be who you are, you will just be truthful. And sometimes the truth is the truth, and is not an offense. It's offensive, yes, but we must remember that it's not an offense, and that is a simple reality in relation to that. Now, what about he then challenges, right, those who follow him to be righteous, and he adheres to moral and ethical principles in their everyday lives. The person of integrity seeks to do what is right and good and avoids doing that which is harmful. Well, at that season, and this is scripture again, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through grain fields, and his disciples were hungry and began to pluck ears and to eat. But the Pharisees, when they saw it, said unto him, "Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath." But he said unto them, "Have ye not read that David did when he was hungry, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of God and ate the showbread, which it was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them that were with him, but only for the priests?" So when you read this, the inspired narrative of Matthew Gospel, the record at 12:1-4, there are those who employ the narratives as biblical precedent or the philosophy of situation ethics. Well, situation ethics is the notion that there are no absolute rules. And we said this again, but I'm repeating it because I know there are some people who just came in. And it governs right and wrong. Rather, all human activity is determined by the situation of the moment. Supposedly guided by love alone, the aforementioned case regarding Israel's great king is cited as authoritative for this concept of human conduct. So on a certain occasion, David and his men were hungry, and you can find this at Samuel 1:21-6, 21 verse 6. In a time, 1 Samuel, that's not Samuel 1, 1 Samuel 21:6. In a time of crisis, they resorted to eating the sacred bread that was served for the priest. This act was not lawful, but the desperation of the hour justified the conduct, so we are told. So it is alleged that Jesus himself cited with approval what David did, and supposedly Christ endorsed David's practice of situation ethics and thereby justified the law-breaking conduct of his own disciples. So you would have heard, I know we live in a world where we hear things, situation ethics. Pharaoh had a absolute law that if you strike an Egyptian and they died, the eye for an eye, you know it go, you would be put to death. Moses did it, but he loved Moses, and in that situation he didn't put him to death. He said, you know what, I'm going to banish you for 40 years and go to the wilderness because I simply won't kill you. That is an application of situation ethics. And because of that, we are certain that absolute law is something that we ought to not partaking. That's why, in terms of me, my position on mandatory minimum sentences, I think it's ludicrous, and I think it's one of the reasons why crime is actually increased, because persons who don't want to succumb to the effect of a mandatory minimum, i.e., if you're found in possession of a firearm, rather than saying to the police, aha, you got me, you're gonna say, you know something, I dead me off a dead come and I'm gonna sit down for 15 years. And so that simple possession turns into a shootout, and that shootout leads to death, and all kind of madness comes from it because badly written laws. And so as legislators, we don't think about situations, and we don't give judges, when we take away the ability for judges to deal with cases on a situation ethics basis in the positive way, to ensure that whatever the best amount of benefit that can come from a situation that it actually arises is takes place. But no, that's not unfortunately the situation at hand. So Valerie Watson said, Mr. Isaac, how would you apply situation ethics with Ari? I don't even know who's Ari or ARI. Somebody have to help me with that. See, you don't have to teach me, can't assume I know everything. What I wanted to say though is I'm waiting on Valerie to update me, or somebody to help me who Ari is. The next aspect that I wanted to say though is, no matter how people felt about notice how things happen in real time. We're in so I said, how apply situation ethics to with Ari? Okay. You have to see with me. Yeah, thank you. No. Yo, to put me on the spot, Wow. Anyway, listen, bear with yourself. The thing I was saying is, no matter how one of the things that I love about Jamaica, so I'm putting this in context. One of the thing that I love about Jamaica is it's so entertaining. No matter how ludicrous, no matter how absurd Parliament can be, it has never gone to the level like we're saying, not we, but it is being said that Miss Holness should resign, and somebody said, haha, Aristotle. Because I'm thinking it's Aristotle. I'm like, but what? I never spoke to Aristotle before, but now I know Ari is. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, no matter how you think about Jamaica, the beautiful thing about Jamaica is the dynamics that takes place, because the longest serving black politician in the UK is experiencing racism, and there are persons who think it's quite fine. So while we are crying, misogyny, and putting smoke screens, red herring, and strawmen up to the table by simply making reference to what could be a moral or an ethical disposition, certainly not a legal one, we see racism still in 2024, disrespect, and how that, without any regard for how a serving member of parliament who happens to be black would feel. But then in a situation like that, that would also be what you'd call not straw man, but a situation where we say, well, we're using not red herring either, but rather a smoke screen, because me comparing our parliament with what is happening with racism would be saying, well, you're lucky say he wasn't being racist to her and was just simply pointing out something. But in my mind, I'm just saying that we ought to look at situations and assess it. For instance, in today in Jamaica, this is current affairs, Jamaica has accepted Haitian children who are disabled, given the situation, what's happening in Haiti. No, that's something admirable. That's something that's a humanitarian effort, and America rejected them, but Jamaica accepted them. But then one has to look at it and understand that Jamaica received money, and it may very well be a part of the agreement for the money that they received. I don't know. But juxtapose that with, even as we're saying this, there are places in the world, for instance, in the Gaza situation, where so many children have been brutally murdered, and they call it airstrikes and they call it attacks, but they don't call it murder. And nobody's going away for life. Nobody's being prosecuted. Nobody's being labeled as the worst of the worst. But situation ethics would see that what's happening in that region is a fight for sovereignty and state recognition, and a resolution of who ought to be in the correct place and who is to be what. I'm only raising these things to show you as a matter of what situation ethics look like, because there are people who are saying there is justification for what is actually happening at the time, versus some other situation where they would say that people in Jamaica are barbaric. But are we really barbaric in comparison to what we see happen in other places in the world? Also, situation ethics was used when the atomic bomb was deployed or was used at Hiroshima, and the distinguished gentlemen in those rooms, the scientists and everybody, said there was no other option but to use it at the time so they could win a war. And the situation then was just and moral. Now, what one has to wonder where that is concerned. And yeah, big up Mustard Seed, because they are the ones who are taking care of the Haitian children that have reached. And let me just be clear, it's a positive thing, you know. I can't think of a situation where anybody could object to a nation taking in children of any race, any color, any. There could have been 50 healthy Haitian children. The children of the world, children of any country are children of the world, citizens of the world, and they should be taken care of. And that's something that we need to, as a world, not even as a nation, the world at large, globally, we need to make room for that in terms of governance, to make sure that children are protected so that they can become the best versions of themselves. That's the idea of situation ethics, trying to do good, trying to spread love in such a way that it's beneficial to the future of a nation. Yeah, so that's certainly my thought on that topic and on situation ethics. So really and truly, we can now kind of see if we can vibe on the issues or the topics and see how you feel about all that I would have just said, the three fallacies and the use of situation ethics, Jesus's position on situation ethics, and he had many other things. Like, he chose who he was to heal. He chose Lazarus. A rich man, Lazarus would reach heaven, and it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into the gates of heaven. These things are all situational ethics demonstrated through the life and teachings of Jesus. So I'm raising that so we can have an understanding whether that is something, because it's also even how we love, how we hate, how we criticize, how we become, if you're politically charged, how you are exercise morality through party lines. You're silent if your party does something, but you speak out. And this new concept where even young people can be disrespectful to old people in the name of calling themselves a group. young Jamaicans or whatever they call themselves and say, oh, you should resign, and love to tell people to resign without looking at the effect of resignation, without understanding the impact and the implications of boorish, rude statements to people because of joining in party lines. I only raise that aspect of it because individually, especially when persons group up together, they group up like hyenas in a pack. So they don't have lion mentality. And usually, as you know, if the lion is the superior animal, the hyenas certainly are the mongrels of the jungle. But at the same time, they pack together and they can do a lot of damage to a lion pride. So I raise that to say that individually, thou must be right within. And if you're right within, you can, if you're not right within, you can do a lot of damage to your society. So you have to get right within. You have to anchor yourself on God and appreciate what situation ethics is. Because if you do justice in every situation and you're doing right, then people can't be mad at you and people can't be wrong. And that's how you march to a better society. And the criticisms is almost like people must never forget where they're coming from. Because if you forget where you're coming from, you'll condemn your own, just so that you don't have to remind yourself of who you are or where you're from. And so people from humble beginnings and people I think people from third world nations should all be humble. And I think that is an aspect that we need to get to, so that we're not disrespectful and rude all the time. No, ISAT has not called anybody mongrels. I said hyenas are the mongrels of the jungle. Packed people who pack up. That's what I said. So yeah. So once again, context matters, and this is a space where English language is you should have a dictionary with you so that you can interpret the meanings and definitions. So you don't take it and run with it and say, oh, I said call somebody a mongrel. I said hyenas are the mongrels of the jungle. And if you don't know what a jungle is, Disney has made a movie and they do remakes. It's called The Lion King, and it's in cartoon form, so it's easy to digest, so people can have understand the simplicity that I'm laying out in terms of Simba and how that whole situation, and how when a weak lion teams up with the hyenas, the effect of it, the entire pride suffers, the entire jungle, the entire nation suffers. It's so simple. So and you can use Google if you don't have a dictionary, but that is important because I am finally understanding, and it took me a while to appreciate and to understand how it is that it's so easy for people to misinterpret, how it is that even when things are clear, people say, let me give clarity to things that are clear. It is the most interesting thing how people can conflate issues, and people can use the straw man fallacies and the red herring, because I am talking about Jesus and talking about situation ethics and using examples. And somebody said, of all the things I said, people hold on to the analogy and the explanation between lions and hyenas. Hyena and lion do not live in the jungle. Context matters. Oh, wow. Thank you. I'll remember that, because I don't live in the jungle either. You hear? Anyway, so that is that. So we can now have the conversations, and you tell me your thoughts. I will be reading the comments. Melbad, who gave a joke? Yeah, so I'm open to questions. Yeah, and I promise when to tease me about my technology, but my tell you some technology good, you know. And I don't know what I go on for my technology today, because my technology good. Yeah, I'm so mad at this. Let me try something. Tell me something. Are you actually here? Are you hearing me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? You live in the concrete jungle that Bob Marley sing about. I don't live in Trenchtown though, so that's a no. Yeah, can you hear me? Or my sound gone? Help me out right here. Seven laughing. You're not hearing me? No, they're not hearing me. I know why. Place freeze up. Freeze up. Freeze up. Anyway, please. Right, so as I would have said from time to time, that's pretty much the way how we would have to look at the situations as they arise. So anyway,